When you play the same character for years on one of the most popular soap operas on TV, leaving the set is going to make you feel like you're back in the soap opera. In the third act, the curtain goes up. I'm right in the middle of it all, a soap show star, a disputed set of Dantes, plus a surprise that no one saw coming. Surely you know Anthony Geary if you've ever watched General Hospital, the man who transformed the character of Luke Spencer from a supporting part into a television phenomenon. He broke records for 37 years and won 8 daytime Emmys, more than any other male actor in the soap opera genre. So when Anthony Geary was at the height of his fame, he just quit everything. He said goodbye to Hollywood, disappeared from the public eye, and didn't give any reason. Why? What did really happen? What was it that he left behind when he left General Hospital? Why would one of the biggest TV stars in the United States decide to leave while everyone was still praising him? And the third surprise will make you even more interested and shocked. Who did he live with in secret? Let's find out what no one has said about Anthony Geary, the man who changed the history of TV and had one of the strangest goodbyes in Hollywood history. Anthony Geary was born on May 29, 1947 in Colville, Utah. It was a small, unknown town with dusty dirt roads and open fields where kids could play. As a child in a working-class home, he learned early on how important it is to work hard and not give up. He started out as a construction worker with just an old truck and a shovel, like his dad, Russell Dean Geary. He had nothing but drive and a strong will to keep working. When Anthony was young, his father worked hard to grow his business. He did nothing but work, day and night, to make a small business into a successful one. Geary learned from this that if you say you'll do something, you have to see it through to the end. He had a mother named Dana Geary who was a homemaker and very sensitive and emotional. The fact that she was never afraid to talk about how she felt was something she taught her son. Geary had a sharp ability to notice things, even when he was a child. He paid close attention to everyone around him, to every expression and tone of voice. This was a skill that would later make him a great performer. Geary has been interested in movies since he was a child, not just looking at them, but also learning about them. He kept a personal notebook where he carefully wrote down the name of every movie he had seen, along with the director, cast, and his own opinion on the movie. He wasn't like most kids who are drawn to stories with heroic main characters. He was especially interested in bad guys who were complicated and had many sides. This interest would shape his work in the years to come. Geary never had any family members who worked in show business, but he always felt like he belonged on stage. He would act out scenes from movies he liked by himself in his room, imitating the sounds and movements of well-known characters. Geary graduated from North Summit High School in 1965. Even though he wasn't a very good student in school, everyone knew how talented he was as an artist. During high school, he was in every play and was always cast in the lead role. Geary got a theater scholarship to the University of Utah because of how talented he was. This was a great chance for a boy from Colville. In the beginning of his career, Anthony Geary didn't work on big-budget movies or TV shows. Instead, he worked on his playing on stage, where he had to pay full attention at all times and there was no room for error. He got his first big chance while he was still in college at the University of Utah in the late 1960s. At that time, veteran actor and Academy Award winner Jack Albertson came to the school to be in the play The Subject Was Roses. Geary was cast as the son in the play, and Albertson was blown away by how he played the part. Albertson made a surprising offer after the last show. "Would you like to join me on the tour?" This was his way into the world he had always dreamed of as a young man from the small town of Colville. Geary dropped out of college right away and went on the tour with Albertson. He ended up in Los Angeles, where he got his first real taste of the show business and knew right away that he couldn't go back. In the 1970s, Los Angeles was a very competitive place to live, where only the strongest could make it. But Geary didn't give up when he felt pressured. Instead, he worked hard all the time. He worked hard on the stage for years, appearing in more than 50 to 60 different musicals in places ranging from small theaters. During this time, he got better at improvising, keeping his feelings in check, and keeping the audience's attention at all times. It gave him the solid base he needed to create a natural, understated, but captivating acting style, which was an important trait that would later make him shine on TV. After years of hard work in the theater, Geary started to see how well he could do on TV. At the time, he got parts in TV shows like Room 222, The Streets of San Francisco, and The $6 Million Man. Even though he only had small parts, he always found ways to make his characters more interesting, keeps them from becoming forgotten background figures. This skill made him stand out right away, and he really broke through when he got a tough part on the show All in the Family. Geary played Roger on the TV show All in the Family in 1971. The show's main character, Archie Bunker, thought Roger was gay. At the time, American TV shows that were mainly meant to be funny and entertaining were still very cautious about talking about LGBTQ+ issues. Geary could have made Roger into a stereotype or a joke, but he decided to make Roger a real person. He didn't exaggerate or make fun of things. Instead, his act felt real and like it could be understood. These changes led to a groundbreaking episode that was a turning point in the history of LGBTQ+ characters on TV, changing the way Hollywood dealt with the issue. Geary's brief part in All in the Family showed that he was an actor who wasn't afraid of challenges and was ready to play complicated and controversial roles. At this point, he was ready to move on to a whole new world, soap shows. Geary joined the cast of Bright Promise, a CBS daytime drama, in 1971. At first, it was just another chance to play, but that's where he met Gloria Monty, the woman who would change the course of his whole career. She had big ideas and was one of the most important people in the soap show business. As soon as she started working with Geary, she noticed something special about him that maybe not even Geary himself knew about yet. Monty told him to be proud of what made him unique. Most Hollywood producers were looking for actors who were conventionally good-looking. Monty, on the other hand, wanted Geary to embrace his unique, offbeat way of acting. She thought about that for years afterward. After only a few years, Monty took a big step when she became the executive director of General Hospital. She made up a totally new character just for Geary. No one, not even Anthony Geary himself, thought that the job he took on in General Hospital in 1978 would become the most important part of his career. Geary's first contract was only for 13 weeks, which is a short-term part like hundreds of other soap show roles. Then, though, something strange happened. Luke Spencer became famous, and his appearance on the show changed the way daytime TV was shown. Luke Spencer was different from all the other characters. At a time when soap opera male leads were usually presented as perfect, well-groomed, and morally good, Luke stood out as an anti-hero with a lot of flaws. He wasn't the charming prince people were used to seeing, and he wasn't someone who would make anyone fall in love with him right away. He was stubborn, dangerous, and pitiful at times. He had a lot of flaws, but I couldn't help but fall in love with him. Luke wasn't written from the start to be a typical plot point. He wasn't part of the group. He had a bad past and would do anything to stay alive. In fact, the way he started the show caused a lot of controversy. Luke was first shown as the man who raped Laura Weber, who was one of the show's most beloved female characters. In a surprising turn of events, though, Luke stopped being hated and became hard to ignore. How did Luke Spencer, a figure who started out as a bad guy, become the most watched man in America? Anthony Geary was the key. Luke could not have been portrayed by anyone else in a way that was so scary, sad, and interesting all at the same time. Geary didn't do what was expected of him. He gave Luke more character, changing him from a simple bad guy to a hurt man who is haunted by his past. People couldn't hate him all the way because they saw someone fighting their own problems. Because of Geary's brave writing and masterful acting, the rules of soap operas were changed. Great starring men were a thing of the past. Characters became more complicated after Luke Spencer. In his stories, a man could be both a bad guy and a good guy at the same time. But Luke Spencer's unique personality wasn't the only thing that made him famous. It was his part in Luke and Laura, the most famous love story in American television history. Their relationship was both fascinating and deeply controversial, and it shook Hollywood to its core. If Luke Spencer changed General Hospital, then his friendship with Laura was what made the show famous all over the country. Luke and Laura were more than just a television couple. They were the most famous couple in American TV history. Their wedding, which aired in November 1981 and was watched by 30 million people, set the record for the most watched daytime TV show in U.S. history. On that day, everyone in America seemed to be crazy about Luke and Laura. There was a big drop in sales at malls and offices, and coffee shops and restaurants all had one thing in common. Everyone had their eyes fixed on the TV. People were more interested in it than any other news story that day, even though it wasn't a royal wedding or a big political event. It wasn't just Luke and Laura on a soap show. They were now an important part of American pop culture. However, their relationship started in a very public and controversial way, very different from the love scene that millions of people watched. Even stranger was the fact that Luke and Laura's love story didn't start out like a fairy tale. It began with a crime. Laura was sexually attacked by Luke at a disco club in one of the most controversial TV scenes in U.S. history. People today find it hard to understand what happened at that time, but at that time, the plot took a turn that no one saw coming. Instead of making Luke a full-on bad guy, the show changed his story and made him into a highly troubled man who was tormented by what he did wrong. Luke was more than just a bad guy. He had to face his mistakes, try to make things right, and win back the love of the woman he hurt. This made the situation complicated and interesting, which kept people interested. This was what made General Hospital unique. Instead of repeating the same old formula, it tried to break the rules of daytime TV. But there was a lot of stress going on behind the scenes of this famous wedding. Gloria Monte, the strong woman who made the show a hit, wouldn't stand for mistakes or delays. She set a very strict shooting plan and insisted that every detail be perfect. That day, Geary Francis, who played Laura, said she couldn't sit down because the wardrobe staff was afraid her wedding dress would get wrinkled. It was easy to feel the stress on set. It was clear to everyone that this wasn't just another episode, it was an important time in the history of TV. Even with all the stress, there were times to remember. Anthony Geary really liked shooting the Virginia Reel dance scene because it made him think of when he was a kid and he used to go to a lot of square dancing events. One of the most famous scenes from the show was Luke and Laura driving away from their wedding in an old Model T. This image helped make the wedding that millions of people were looking forward to feel very beautiful. Luke and Laura had such a big effect on people outside of the set that a big party was held in New York to honor the event. However, it turned out that Anthony Geary and Geary Francis, who were the two most important people at the event, were not invited. Francis later said that she was hurt when she heard this. Even though Luke and Laura's wedding was one of the most famous events in TV history, the people who made it happen were not invited to the party that was held in their honor. Whether this was a choice made on purpose by the creators or just a mistake in the planning, Francis was still very upset. Of course, the fact that Princess Diana was a huge fan of Luke and Laura was proof enough of how famous they were. Not many people know that the Princess of Wales was watching General Hospital while the whole world was watching Diana and Prince Charles' wedding in 1981. She was so interested in Luke and Laura that she allegedly had VHS tapes from the US brought into the country just to watch the episodes. Diana even sent a bottle of champagne to show her happiness when she heard about the wedding on TV. In a funny turn of events, Geary could enjoy the gift while Francis couldn't because she wasn't old enough to drink yet.